What's up, everybody? This is Charlie from HotTipsCentral.com, and today we are going to be looking at a classic. It got popular on the Game Boy way back in the 90s, and in 1996 it was released, Mega Man X for the Super Nintendo. And although the Super Nintendo was only rocking a 24.5 megahertz processor with only 128 kilobytes of RAM, it rendered this game beautifully. Today we're going to be taking a look for Mega Man X on the iPhone. Let's check it out. So like I said before, Mega Man X really isn't a new game or anything. It's just a port from an old console, an old system. Capcom has brought Mega Man X back. They've tweaked the graphics for the nice enhanced Retina display. Because the game is now on a touch interface, they've added a few things to make it easier for gamers, and although at first I really didn't like it, I thought they'd ruin the game, there are actually settings that you can go in and change things around and really customize your experience with the game. There's 3 different difficulty levels. 2 of them are available right when you start the game, and all the nice little cheats, as they call them, can be turned on and off whenever you want. So let's go take a look at Mega Man X. So the first thing you're going to notice is the main menu has got a bunch of stuff on it. The original game really didn't have a main menu because it wasn't really that sophisticated. It was simple. You just play the game. But the iPhone has a few extra things. If you look in the top left corner, you're going to see some gears. The gears is actually the settings menu. That's where you should go first before you start playing the game. Now when we get into the settings menu, you're going to see 5 different sections. And unfortunately, the sections really aren't labeled all that smart because they're all really bright colors when you select them, even the text. So when you have an option selected, it's a really bright white and it's actually a little hard to read. Let's go into the sound section first. You're going to see that you have background music and sound effects, and you can adjust the volumes whenever you want. To adjust one of the volumes, you just use a repeated tap. But like I said before, since the text is white, it's a little hard to tell where you are. You have to look closely. We're going to back out of that. We're going to the screen section now, and you're going to see 3 boxes here. You can adjust the screen size to be either regular or full. By default, it's at full. You can also adjust the screen orientation. Now, all that does is take the normal window like it is and flip it so that it can be this way. And the third box is controls. Now controls allows you to figure out where you want the buttons to be that best fits your needs. There's 6 different types. There's type A and type B, which are reverses of each other. Then there's type C and D, which are also reverses of each other, and they slam the buttons up against the side. And then there's E and F, which are also opposites of each other, and they slam the buttons to the bottom so you can get it out of the way and see more of the screen. Now, I personally like A and B, but I have noticed occasionally my hands are in the way of enemies and I can't see they're there until they get around my hand. So if you're noticing that and you'd like to change it, the options are right there in the settings. The last thing we're going to look at is the cheats box. Now the cheats box is the extra abilities that they've added into the game that wasn't in the original, and they've done this to, I think, help with the touch interface people, people who may not be all that good at gaming on touch. I know I'm not, so a couple of these features have actually come in handy. They have the auto fire, which you can turn into either auto or manual, and essentially that makes it possible for you to just rapid fire by holding down the fire button rather than having to click it every time. Then there's the auto charge. This has 3 different modes. You can either have all of your weapons charge, only the X-Buster charge, or none of the things charge. So if you have a lot of different weapons, but you don't want all your side weapons to charge, all your extra weapons to charge all the time, you can set it to X-Buster only. The last is auto ladder cache. Sometimes it's difficult to grab onto ladders to go up to other stories or down other stories. The touch interface, again, it has a little bit of its bugs to it because of how close the buttons are in this game. So they make it easy for you and they say if there's a ladder nearby, do you want us to grab it for you? There are a ton of achievements in Mega Man X, and I'm actually impressed by that because I didn't think a game like this that's been ported from another console, they would even bother putting achievements in, but they've put a lot of achievements into this game. So if you're one of those people that like to clear all the achievements in games, you might want to check them out because there's a lot of them. Now let's get into the bread and butter of the game, story mode. Now story mode has 3 different difficulties, but only 2 of them are available off the start. If you are used to playing on the iPhone, or playing any games really, don't start it easy. Start it normal. And the reason is because easy is way too easy. You can beat final bosses in 3 or 4 shots. I mean, it is ridiculously easy. Mega Man was one of the original games that allowed you to choose the order of the levels that you play and the order of the battles that you fought. And this comes in handy when you have people with weaknesses. Every boss has a weakness to the weapons of another boss, and every time you defeat a boss, you get to gain some of that boss's abilities. So this comes in handy because now you can use other abilities and you can attack bosses with their weakness to help defeat them easier. Another really cool feature about Mega Man X is that you can expand your armor and actually upgrade your equipment. In 4 of the 8 levels you'll find hidden capsules. In Storm Eagle's level there's a capsule for a helmet upgrade which allows you to bust through bricks with your head like Mario does. This comes in handy later when you have to go after certain parts and expand your heart container, because you can't get certain places without busting bricks through your head. Overall, I think Capcom has done a pretty decent job. Now, one thing I didn't like about Mega Man was the fact that the levels are paginated. They're not continuous. They go into separate sections. You actually have to walk off the screen, have the game load the next section, and keep going. And that was something that the Super Nintendo didn't have to do, and I'm kind of surprised that the iPhone has to do it. There's a lot of games. I mean, at first I thought maybe it was the size of the map. You know, maybe this is just too big of a map for the iPhone to be able to handle, but games like Sonic CD have huge maps, and they had no problem being continuous, so I'm hoping maybe an update fixes that. One tiny glitch I did notice in this game while playing was the frame rate. It seems like the frame rate may be just a little bit slower than on the Super Nintendo, which actually surprises me considering that this device is much more powerful than the Super Nintendo was. Since this is the absolute release version at 1.0, I'm pretty sure this is probably a bug that Capcom will eventually work out and fix. I would hope also that the menus, being hard to read when they're selected, would also be fixed later as well. I don't really have too many problems with the controls. For the most part, it's pretty easy. Every now and then you'll find yourself tapping the wrong side, but if you just remember to use the on-screen controls as a D-pad rather than a joystick, you'll be fine. You'll tap the right side almost every time. It's when you try to use it as a joystick and you actually slide your thumb that it becomes a problem. Shooting other robots is fun, and the music and sound is exactly as it was with the Super Nintendo. There's also a few other things they did to make it harder to die in the easy difficulty setting. For example, in cliffs where you would normally fall to your doom, there are now yellow platforms that keep you from dying and allow you to get back up on the other ledges and continue on in the level. Again, easy setting is really easy. If you have any dignity at all as a gamer, you're going to want to play it at least normal first. Overall, I think Mega Man is a solid game, just as it was before. The enhanced graphics in the iPhone 4 and iPhone 4S really bring out color and really makes the picture a lot sharper than on the Super Nintendo. I'm going to give Mega Man X for iPhone a solid 4 stars out of 5. I think it has a few things that it needs worked on, but overall it's a solid game and I highly recommend checking it out. To read the more in-depth review, check out the link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, and visit us at hottipscentral.com.